Hey, it's Dr. John Terry with Legacy Marketing Group, and welcome into Tune Into Sales. I am super excited today because one of my heroes, one of the people I've looked up to for a long, long time because she knows more than anybody else in the world about annuities, and that's Miss Sheryl Moore. And we are so excited to have her in the room today, and we're going to talk about all things annuity. So, Miss Sheryl, the rock star of the annuity world, welcome to Tune Into Sales.
Wow, I got to tell you, John, my head's so big I won't fit through the door when I'm done here. Thank you.
We are so excited to have you because, and I've had a lot of people asking, when can we get Sheryl on a podcast? And I'm glad we were able to make that happen, and thank you for being available. So let's jump right in and let's get started. You know, Sheryl, if we look at the world around us in terms of what's going on right now in the annuity space, there are more annuity products available today than probably ever before. As we're looking at the state of annuities today, where would you say that we're seeing the most growth? Where are we seeing areas of retrenchment? And what do you think this declining interest rate environment that we now appear to be in is really going to shape the world of annuities going forward?
Okay, well, I'm a person who deals well with small chunks at a time, John. So hopefully I'll capture everything you asked there. I'm really excited about the state of annuities right now. And, most of your fans probably know I'm a huge advocate for annuities, but indexed annuities are a product that I have a personal experience with. And they're near and dear to my heart because of that experience. And although I will say that structured annuities or RILAs are actually doing better than indexed annuities, I'm really excited to see what's going on because, last year we had 130 billion of indexed annuity sales. I still remember when we were doing like 7 million a year in indexed annuity sales. So I'm really excited about that. And I'm seeing some innovation that I haven't seen since probably just after the turn of the century. So we've seen like best entry point features where you look at the lowest point in the index over the first, say, 90 days and use that lowest point for your index measurement. We're seeing a ton of companies that are offering indexed annuities that guarantee their rates for the surrender charge period, which is huge for us. And then I'm also seeing some new indexing methods are being created. I mean, some really interesting innovation ones, which is, something we normally see whenever there's a low interest rate environment. Interest rates right now are better than they have been. After 2008, 2009, they were miserable. I still remember 3% index annuity caps, and we're certainly not there. But I'm seeing new indexing methods the way I used to during that period. So I would say this is a wonderful time for innovation and the renaissance of indexed annuities in particular.
So we're seeing record sales in the annuity space. What do you think is driving that? Is it the boomers that they're really settling into? Because we're getting close to the end of all the boomers getting past age 65. Do you
Mhm.
think that's a driving force, or what's really the impetus behind this incredible growth we've seen over the last few years in the annuity space in particular and fixed indexed annuities in general?
So, as you alluded, I think the silver tsunami, as they're calling it, does account for a little bit of the increase that we're seeing in sales. But something I would attribute the growth in annuity sales to be is something that not a lot of people think about, and that's the Secure Act, which was legislation that basically made it so you can have annuities within 401ks. Now, how does that relate to individual retail annuity sales? Well, as you know, one of the things I do is serve as a fact checker for the media whenever they're reporting on life insurance and annuities. And what I've seen is that I've gone from correcting negative and inaccurate media a couple of times a day to actually promoting positive articles about annuities. And I got to tell you, John, this is really the first time I've seen this in my 26-year history in this market. Positive press about annuities gets in front of consumers' eyes, and then they say, "Hey, valued insurance agent, I read something about annuities that sounded pretty positive, and I was thinking, based on what they said, that might be right for me. Let's talk about annuities." Although I will say, most consumers don't know what an annuity is. And there's still a little bad taste in people's mouth when you mention the A word sometimes. But our industry has done a lot of research on these products and how consumer behavior works in relation to annuities. And we found that if you talk about what an annuity does rather than what it is, then you get an initial positive response as opposed to the consumer tuning out because they hear the A word. So that's really helping too.
Gotcha. So, next question I've got along those lines, and I want to go back in time just a little bit. For those that maybe are new to the annuity world and they're going, who's this Cheryl Moore lady? And why is John goading all over this amazing lady that has all this knowledge? Can you give us just kind of a little backstory of how you got to where you are today, just for those that may not know who you are?
Yeah, you bet. So 26 years ago, I was working for an insurance company who was the number one seller of index life insurance and indexed annuities. And I was actually in charge of competitive intelligence for the company. There was a lot of politics there. We really were focused on life insurance products primarily because they were looking to ramp up sales and sell the company off. Coincidentally, that company is now the number one seller of annuities in the nation as a point of reference. But I had a personal experience when I lost money in a 401k. And I honestly had no idea that you could lose money in a 401k. And when I complained to my boss about it, I was like, I don't know what to do. I'm losing money and it's going down every day, my 401k balance. What can I do? And he said, well, why didn't you buy an indexed annuity? And I was like, what's an indexed annuity? Because of all those politics and my experience in the life insurance world, it was foreign to me. And when he explained that it was a product where I could never lose money as a result of the market's movement and be guaranteed 0% interest at the worst case scenario, but earn interest based on the performance of the stock market that was limited to a degree, that sounded like something that was perfect for me, John. And really, what ignited the fire in me to start my own business was that I did research at the library on this new thing called the internet. And most of what I read about annuities was very negative and inaccurate. So I thought, what if this was happening to my grandparents? What if they were looking for information on annuities? They actually bought variable annuities when indexed annuities were more in line with their risk profile. And that in itself really motivated me to make sure that consumers know how these products work and what they're like so they can make a decision on whether or not they're right for them. I don't care if you decide that an annuity is not right for you. You just need that information so that you can make that determination on your own. So that's really my motivation for doing what I do. And today I run a market research firm that specializes in life insurance and annuity products. We track the sales of the products. We have a massive website database that houses all the product information and rates for these annuities. And as I mentioned, I still do fact checking for the media. My hands are in legislation and regulation. There's so much that I do. But I'll tell you, my grandparents like to tell people I'm the CEO of an insurance company. And I let them think that, John. Technically, they're not wrong.
You never know how grandparents are. My dad asked me to this day, and I've been doing the same thing for almost 4 decades. And he's like, "Tell me what you do," and and I laugh at that because we have the same conversation quite a bit right now going on because his dad's getting older, his memory's fading. But yeah, I mean, in my dad's eyes, I've done a lot of different things. I haven't been called the CEO of an insurance company yet, but who knows? Maybe that's coming down the road.
Well, sign me up. I want to be the first one to get you started with your market research when you start that job, John.
Awesome. Awesome. Cheryl, that's a deal. Absolutely. So Cheryl, I want to pivot back to thinking back to the early days of fixed indexed annuities. I remember when I got started, we had this company called Keyport and came out with this amazing fixed indexed annuity that kind of started the trend. And as we've looked over the years, the way fixed index annuities have been built have gotten much more complicated in terms of the indexing strategies and things we're putting in. Do you think that's been a positive thing? Do you think that's been a negative? If you were to rub a crystal ball and say, where are we going in terms of product design so that we're meeting the needs of consumers going forward? What does that look like to you?
Well, one of the things that people compliment me for, John, is that I give it to people straight.
Yes, you do.
So I'm going to tell you, I'm not a huge fan of all of the innovation that we've seen in the market in terms of product, in terms of indexing methods. I mean, I've got over 210 different indexes that you can earn indexed interest off of on an indexed annuity. And I think when you have that many choices, it's a little overwhelming, not just for the consumer, but for the agent who's selling the product. I mean, I can still remember when indexed annuities had an average of 6 different index choices on them. And today, a lot of companies have over 30 different allocation options available to the client. And that just makes me feel like we're forgetting the keep it simple, silly um, KISS acronym. We need to remember that these are products that consumers have never heard of. They likely have never heard of the insurance company that's offering it. So, this whole concept of indexing is very foreign. And I think we're complicating the story a little bit. But, I am hopeful for the index annuity market just because we have companies that have historically said our distribution will never have an index annuity available for them to sell because we're a captive agency company and we don't believe in index annuities because they're an independent agent product. Well, those companies are now eating their words and offering indexed annuities. So we have a lot of really big companies who historically have kind of poo-pooed these products. And today it's like, welcome to my house, guys.
Right. Yeah.
They're offering indexed annuities.
Yeah.
So, a lot of not so good, I'd say, but we're making 2 steps forward, 1 step back. So we're going to get ahead eventually. I just think and hope that the insurance companies should take a look at the state of index annuities and help us reevaluate if we're really doing the agent and the client a service.
Sure. Well, what do you think about different distribution channels? I mean, we see fixed index annuities sold a lot in the independent channel. We're now seeing that some, as you mentioned, in the more captive channels. What do you see going on in the banks, in the broker-dealer world, and in the investment advisory world when it relates to annuity products today, variables included?
Really, historically, this has been an independent agent's product. In fact, more than 80% of all sales historically have originated through independent insurance agents. That's why a lot of people say index annuities are independent agents' bread and butter. But I have seen since the Dodd-Frank finance reform bill, which was in July of 2010 that it got passed, that there are distributions that are embracing index annuities in a way that they didn't feel was a possibility before, just because we were able to secure the fixed insurance status of these products with the Harkin Amendment that was on that bill. And so what we've seen is organizations like banks and broker dealers and investment advisory firms that historically would have said, I don't know how those are going to be regulated. That makes me concerned. So I'm not going to sell those products. And today, I would say all distribution channels are distributing index annuities, except really direct to consumer. We do have a couple of companies that participate in that distribution, but their sales are so nominal, it doesn't really contribute a great share of the product sales. But I've been encouraged just because those new distributions mean new opportunities to get in front of consumers and say, hey, is this a product that might fit for your risk profile?
Absolutely. Yeah. Cheryl, and as I look at where we're going, we're seeing declining interest rates, but we're seeing the market continue to soar. What do you think the prognostications are for 2026 as agents are looking forward to? They've got clients that maybe have been in a MIGA that's getting ready to renew. Interest rates aren't going to be where they are. We're now seeing, as you mentioned, those strong contractual guarantees that are available in many annuities, and we have some here at Legacy that will offer, guaranteed rates and caps for the entire surrender period. Where do you see the market shifting or moving in this current economic climate and political climate we're in going into 2026?
Well, I really think that multi-year guaranteed annuities, their sales are going to be down because rates are down, but those sales have to go somewhere. And so, given that CDs are the primary product that multi-year guaranteed annuities compete against, I would say that MIGA sales will still be relatively good because CD rates are so crummy. But indexed annuity sales are going to be even better just because of what you mentioned, John. I mean, it's hard to make the value proposition for an indexed annuity when you have a MIGA rate that's guaranteed for 6% for
right.
5 years.
Mm-hmm.
But when you start dropping down and you're getting into 5% interest rates, 4.5%, then people are saying, well, would an indexed annuity possibly be a better option here? Or even can I split the case and do part MIGA, part indexed annuity? And I think that that's really going to help the products to accelerate their sales in a way that hasn't happened for a couple years. They've been sitting pretty close to the same level of sales for a couple years here. I do still think structured annuity sales are going to do even better, or those RILA products, just because I do speak with a lot of insurance agents who say, I sold my first RILA and I just can't see going back to indexed annuities because these products offer so much more upside potential, although they do have limited downside potential. I'll say I'm not a fan of that narrative just because I think the risk profile of somebody who purchases an indexed annuity is so very different from that says, hey, I'm willing to take some losses for the offset of having a little bit more than an index product. But I'm hearing a lot of agents say that. So I think structured or RILA annuities are going to keep doing very well relative to all other types of annuities. But index annuities will benefit from the lower interest rates because, quite frankly, the two things that affect index annuity sales the most are CD slash MIGA rates and the market's performance.
Mm-hmm.
And the market's headed up. So that speaks really well for indexed annuities.
So, Sheryl, another innovation we've seen in terms of indexing has been intraday trading. And we've seen that technology come in really in the last few years that we didn't have years ago when like the S&P and some of the other bellwether indexes were formed. How's that been a game changer?
Well, I'm seeing a lot more of those indexes being introduced, John, and I think it's just a bandwagon thing where everybody wants to get on board. But they're so new that it's difficult to tell where the allocations are going on those, although we do ask for sales at an allocation level or index level on index annuities. It's just that they're too new to see what level of sales are going to those indexes. But I welcome the innovation. I will say that there is over 200 plus indexes available in this market. So it makes me wonder, how much of that story is being told to agents and therefore consumers? So what do they know about those choices that is different from other choices?
Yeah, and that's one of the big questions I'm asked when I go out all the time is, John, there's so many indexes available. How do I know which index to sell to my client? And how do I
Mhm.
know which one aligns with their goals, their needs, and their objectives? And helping them understand the different ones that we simply have here at Legacy, not to mention what are offered through all the other carriers, that's almost a full-time job. So at some point, the
Yes.
agent's got to lean in and say, these are the indexes I want to learn and I want to get familiar with. I can't learn them all. And
Hmm.
so leaning into that so I can be an expert in certain areas that I can intelligently speak to my client is
Hmm.
important. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, really, my advice to agents has always been stick with what you're comfortable with because you want to have confidence going into the presentation. And if you don't understand an index, then your client's certainly not going to understand it. Stick with what you know is my advice. But what's amazing is that this market has almost 700 different indexed annuities from which to choose if you're an insurance agent who's selling these products. And I think that if you looked at all the different combinations of this type of indexing method, this type of index, this way of limiting the index, there's got to be hundreds of thousands of combinations there, John. It's become highly commoditized to a degree on a product that you would think can't be commoditized.
Absolutely. So I want to back up to a comment you made a little bit ago about interest rates falling, MIGA rates, and as a result are going to fall. You think we're going to see some of that MIGA money move into the fixed index annuity space because it's a good story. For the
Hmm.
agent that's been selling MIGAs that maybe has never sold a fixed indexed annuity, if you could give them a little piece of guidance and advice, and here's how to help transition that client to understand how fixed indexed annuities can provide them an opportunity for growth without the downside risk, what would
Hmm.
that guidance be to the MIGA producer?
It would be do not get overwhelmed by all the choices on these products, whether it's which insurance company you're doing business with or which product you're talking about or even which index. That's really overwhelming to somebody who's just sold MIGAs because MIGAs are so simplistic. Really, what these agents need to know is that regardless of which index you choose, regardless of the indexing method or the way of limiting the index interest, over a long time, they should all perform about the same. And so focus on what you know. And if that means annual point to point on the S&P 500 with a cap, that's where you start, but you build off of that. And the other thing I would suggest, and you might not have heard this 10 years ago, but get involved in social media because there are so many groups on LinkedIn and Facebook where you can learn from other insurance agents who are knowledgeable and experienced with these products. It's a great place to learn, John.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have an honors program for independent producers here at Legacy, and we offer learning forums and an opportunity to go in
Mm.
depth and do peer-to-peer training. And that's one of the nice perks that we offer producers that want to come to work with us. Not only the fact that we've got multiple carriers under, one umbrella and really a carrier group that we bring to the table, that ability to educate the consumer is really an area that we want to stand out and be an innovator and be a leader in helping provide that education for the agent as well as the consumer to helping them understand there are choices they have to make. Let's make educated choices along the way. And speaking of educated choices, you wrote a book a while back, which I had an opportunity to read, and I can't wait to see you in person again so I can have you sign that book. But tell me about the book itself and what that's done for you and maybe advisors that would like to have a book like that. What was the impetus behind the book?
Why I Bought Indexed Annuities is the name of my most recent book. And what really prompted me to write it was that I thought, insurance agents that are talking about these products have sometimes questionable credibility. I'm not saying that they aren't credible. I'm saying people are questioning their credibility because they earn a commission or other things like that. It would be perceived as a conflict of interest sometimes for these agents to give advice on index annuities because people say, oh, well, they earn a commission. So, I can't really trust what they're saying. That was kind of part of the reason I really had ignited a feeling in me that I needed to do a book like this so that agents could put this book in their clients' hands and say, you know what? This lady does not make money based on the sales of these products. She doesn't endorse any company or product, but she bought an indexed annuity like we're talking about for you. And I'd really like you to just read her story. It'll help you understand these products and how they fit into a financial plan. The book is such an easy read, John.
It is.
I wanted to make it funny and relatable because it's a very analytical mind that I have. And I wanted to engage people before I throw them all the facts about annuities, which are, relatively complicated for some consumers. And the other thing that really put a fire under my tail to finally write the book was I had so many people in the media who would say, yeah, but these products have a minimum of 0%. Who knows how they've really performed? Well, I could say, hey, my index annuities have averaged 7%, but they'd say, oh, but you're an annuity cheerleader. So, that sounds good, but where's the proof? Well, at the end of the book, I've put policyholder annual statements where you can see people who've earned 10%, 20%, 30 and 40%. Now, I go in to explain this is not a reasonable expectation for gains on index annuities, but to the naysayers, they do perform. And so that was really a project that took me 20 years to do just because I needed all of those contract holders' annual statements. But I love the book. I think that I'm getting a lot more agents who are putting in bulk orders, which is encouraging to me because that just means more consumers are learning about these products.
Well, it was a conversational read for a lofty topic. I enjoyed reading it. Your humor and what you brought in terms of just entertainment into the chapters of the book were just fantastic. And when I finished it, my middle daughter has expressed some interest in the financial services industry. And I said, this is a book you've got to read. And so that book is currently in transit to her to give her an opportunity to learn from an expert about fixed index annuities and really introduce her to a world that at this point she doesn't know. And
Mhm.
so, yeah, I would encourage financial professionals, if they're looking for a great third party resource, that book that you put out is just absolutely phenomenal. So, thank you for doing that.
Well, thank you, John. I just wanted the opportunity to legitimize people who offer indexed annuities because the media just doesn't get it right when it comes to these products, nor the people selling them.
Absolutely. So, I want to pivot, Cheryl, for just a minute because we're right in the middle of $124 trillion of wealth moving generationally. We've seen that from the Sorelli study. It started in the 62, then it went to 84, and the new number is now 124 plus that's in the process of moving.
Mhm.
How much of that do you see is annuity business that's going to be generationally moving? And what's the advice to producers that have sold an annuity to mom and dad to make sure they've got an opportunity to work with the next generation? What are they missing?
I think that what I get hung up on is the fact that the greatest fear of Americans is running out of money in retirement, John.
Hmm.
That's a statistic that has been the number one fear for a great many years.
Hmm.
And an annuity is the only financial services product that is strategically positioned to help with that because they guarantee a paycheck for the rest of your life. Even if you live to be 150 years old, these products will continue to send a paycheck every month. And I think that that's something that we don't talk enough about, particularly in the independent agent distribution, just because so many insurance companies feel like, hey, not my responsibility to advertise annuities on TV or not my responsibility to advertise these products in magazines. They leave it up to the field marketing organization and the insurance agent to do that marketing or education on these products. I haven't really seen a lot of people capitalizing on that statistic about the number one fear of Americans. I mean, it's a greater fear than death or public speaking, which
Yeah.
is just ludicrous to me. But if we could tell that story and talk about those statistics, then I think more people would be open to this idea of annuities and what they can do for them.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I saw a stat on Plan Advisor the other day, and they were interviewing employees not yet retired. And they said if
Hmm.
there's one thing we could do and offer in the retirement products that are being offered by employers, what is that one thing that we could offer? And 90 something percent of them say, I'd love an investment opportunity that allows me to have a guaranteed paycheck when I quit working, that I know every single month I'm going to get a check for the rest of my life. So
Hmm.
I think as an industry, we've not done a good enough job in educating the public on what these financial instruments actually do and
Hmm.
the value and benefit that they bring to consumers.
Well, I think consumers don't know, hey, Social Security, that's an annuity.
Mhm.
The Publishers Clearinghouse, your prize is an annuity.
Mhm.
This is like a personal pension that you create for yourself.
Mhm.
And I think if we could bring those things up, it would lessen the trepidation about a product that is not understood and not talked about enough. I think a great deal of that trillions of dollars is going to go to annuities. I don't think as much that should be going to annuities will, but I think as we talk about decumulation or taking that big pot of money that people have and turning it into a series of payments, I do think that annuities are going to become a more logical choice just because consumers are going to be hearing about them more, John.
Absolutely. So, Cheryl, one last question, and then I want to get ready to move us to a close. As we look forward into 2026, 2027, moving for the next 2 to 3 years, when it comes to annuities in particular, what do you believe is the most overlooked opportunity that financial professionals are walking past every single day that would serve the consumers and the American public better by having an annuity conversation they're not having?
I think I'm going to again go back to, two things. Number one, the guaranteed paycheck for life story. And then number two, your clients may not have heard about annuities, but they're interested in a paycheck for life.
Mhm.
So, again, talk about what they do instead of what they are. You still, at some point, are going to say, well, hey, did you know? That product we've been talking about that gives you a paycheck every month is actually called an annuity.
Mhm.
And I think that if we position these products in that manner and talk about that greatest value proposition, which is the guaranteed paycheck for life, that we're going to get many more people into these products where they do fit their risk profile and their needs, goals, and objectives for their retirement. And so that's really exciting to me because I had a 401k and lost money. And what I wish I would have bought was an annuity. So I don't want more people to end up like me or my grandparents. And I
Right?
think that, the more insurance agents that hear about these products and the more clients that hear about these products, mean sales are going to keep increasing and more people are going to be able to sleep soundly at night, John.
Absolutely. I love what you said. It's about the benefits and not the features. We see
Mm-hmm.
financial agents all the time want to talk about the features of an annuity. Well,
Mm-hmm.
until the client knows what that annuity actually does for them and says, yes, this is what I want, they don't care about the features. They
Mm-hmm.
want to know,
Mm-hmm.
can I sleep soundly at night knowing I'm going to have a guaranteed paycheck, knowing I'm never going to lose another dime if the market goes south? Having
Mm-hmm.
that confidence that they're able to move into a financial instrument that offers that, that's a big thing. And
Mm-hmm.
when they say yes to the benefits, they said yes to the annuity before they ever even know it's an annuity they're looking at. And that's a powerful area that's often overlooked.
Well, I'll tell you, John, I'm kind of a nerd. I'm a big time data nerd, super big annuity nerd. But sometimes I go into like farmers markets and gatherings and public spaces.
Mhm.
And when people ask what I do, I'll say, well, I have a question first. If I could tell you about a financial services instrument that would guarantee you a paycheck every month for the rest of your life, no matter if you live to be 150 years old or older, and it promised that you would never receive less than 0% interest, but you'd earn interest based on the stock market's performance that's limited to a degree. Is that something that would interest you? And never in 21 years has
Mhm.
somebody said no, John.
Absolutely.
Everybody's
Yeah.
wanted to hear more about
Yeah.
it. So I feel confident that the more agents we have feeling comfortable with these products, that means more consumers who are going to be served the products that they're looking for as solutions.
Absolutely. Well, Sheryl, that is a great place to wrap up our time today. So let me ask one final question. For folks that want to know how to find all things Sheryl Moore related, what's the best way for them to seek you out, to get information, and to begin to learn from the incredible wisdom of the Rockstar of Annuities?
Well, I'm going to complicate things a little, John, even though I talked about uncomplicating things. I have two websites that would be great for them.
Very good.
Winkintel.com. That's wink, like I'm winking. Intel, short for intelligence.com. That's my market research firm. But if they want to learn more about Sheryl and even maybe buy a book, you can hit SherylJMoore.com. And that's Sheryl with an S, middle initial J, Moore. And you can Google because after 26 years of doing this, I
You are
have
number
quite a bit
one.
of hits.
Well, Sheryl, is there anything you want to add as we wrap up that we didn't talk about, or any parting words of wisdom you'd love to lead with our audience today?
We've talked about everything that's on my mind, John. I just want to thank you and Linda and Preston and the whole crew at Legacy Marketing Group for everything that you all do in order to get people familiar with these products, more comfortable, and talking with their clients about them. So thank you very much.
Well, Sheryl, thank you so much for being my guest today. It is a pleasure to have you virtually in the room, and I can't wait to have an opportunity to see you in person, give you a big hug. And if I can get my book back from my daughter, I got to get it signed from you so I can have a signed copy from the Rockstar. Oh, by the way, how's the dog? I know you got a new dog, and did you get the dog all blinged out? I got to ask that before we go.
Yes. So Pickle Pants is now almost 3.5 years old.
Yes.
She does have a sequin dog outfit and she is growing like crazy. Although she remains at 7.5 pounds, she's learning and learning and soaking up information. So right now we're working on getting her not to jump up at people, which is our biggest challenge. But she's doing great. Thanks for
Awesome.
asking.
Very good. Yeah, I see her on Facebook periodically, and great to see that she's doing well. Well, Sheryl, again, thank you for your time. Ladies and gentlemen, for those of you that have joined us for the podcast today, thanks for being here for this episode of Tune Into Sales. I'm Dr. John Terry. For more information on all that we offer here at Legacy Marketing Group, you can visit us at legacynet.com, or you can give us a call at 800-395-1053. Press 1 at the voice prompt. You'll be connected directly to our sales team. And on behalf of all of us here at Legacy, thanks for joining me. Have a great day. The opinions expressed on this podcast do not necessarily reflect the views of Legacy Marketing Group. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be construed as offering tax, legal, or investment advice. The guest featured on this episode is not affiliated with Legacy Marketing Group in any capacity. Legacy makes no representations or warranties regarding the guest products, services, or claims.